Hi everyone, it's Sherry with RedAppleAuctions.com. Today I wanted to talk about unrealistic checkout expectations. And this came to light this past week where I was leading a webinar on how to run a manual auction checkout. And one of the questions that was typed in was, we want to be able to, within 20 minutes of closing the silent auction, to be able to run checkout. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty tight turnaround. Very often in many of our auctions, we'll have about 90 minutes to 2 hours. If you figure your final silent auction section closes at 7:30, maybe you have 15 to 20 minutes to get your guests seated into a ballroom setting at a traditional sit-down dinner gala. Then the food starts. Usually it's a salad, entree, and dessert. That's 20 minutes each. You're looking at an hour there. And then sometimes people want to start the auction at the end of the dessert, which adds on extra time. That's easily 90 minutes, if not 2 hours, before many checkout tables would open, checkout desks. But in her case, she wanted it within 20 minutes. So my advice was, well, no big deal. As long as people have swiped and registered their credit cards, those buyers can leave. They don't need to, you can open up checkout, but if they've already swiped their credit card, they go. You might not have the merchandise available for them, but that's okay. You can say, you're responsible for picking up your own merchandise, and we're open between 8 and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Or for an extra convenience fee, you're willing to ship the merchandise or willing to deliver the merchandise. That could be an option as well. And she said, no, no, no. We want to be able to hand them their merchandise within 20 minutes of the silent auction closing and open up our checkout desk at that time. Well, I didn't know what to say, because that's kind of like saying I want to be 45 pounds less in weight tomorrow. Even if you institute technology or bring in a bunch of people to help you, you're going to have a hard time, depending on the number of silent auction items you have. But if you've got 5, it's different than if you have 100. But you're going to have a difficult time turning that around quickly to be able to give guests what they need to go home, even if you're using mobile bidding. Because from that standpoint, mobile bidding, the one really good thing about mobile bidding is it does simplify registration and checkout. All that data is captured electronically. You can text out receipts to people and so forth, but the physical process of packaging up those items and organizing your checkout takes some time, right? So, which is from the standpoint of the dinner gala, where we like to have 90 minutes is not unusual, 2 hours at probably the more extreme levels. So it reminded me, and this is what I started to explain to her in the webinar, of that old marketing adage, and perhaps you've heard of it, that when you're buying a product or you're buying a service, it's either cheap, fast, or good, and you can choose 2 of those 3. Cheap, fast, or good, you choose 2 of the 3. So for instance, with Domino's Pizza is fast, it gets to your door, it's cheap. Is it good? Leaves something to be desired for some people, okay? In contrast, you might have a service. One of my neighbors got locked out of her house, and she put on our Facebook community, help, I need to get into my house, who's a good locksmith? And she got a name referral. The guy was in there fast. I mean, he got to her car, I think, by within 10 minutes, had her in her house shortly after that, like it was no big deal. Within 30 minutes from beginning to end, she was in her house. She was excited about that. It cost $250 for that 30 minutes. It was fast, it was good, it wasn't cheap. So that's the examples of cheap, fast, or good. And in the case of checkout, you might consider the same to be true. You can have it fast, you can have it good, but that might mean bringing in a lot of people to help organize your checkout, a lot of systems, maybe a professional companies and so forth. So that means it's not going to be cheap. On the other hand, it might be cheap and good. You get everything done. It's just not fast for your guests. So those are the trade-offs that you might want to consider, but just recognize that there are some physical limitations to what you can actually turn around. And if you were under the belief that there weren't any, just know that there are, and you might need to educate your committee or your guests to even a degree that there is some time that's required in order to have a proper checkout from the time you close your silent auction to the time that you open your checkout. All right, so keep that in mind, and if you're looking for any other assistance here, I would just say I've got a lot of help online, free classes, free resources, and so forth. You can head over to redappleauctions.com and get all the information you need on how to plan a profitable benefit auction. Thanks.